Damly dum dum, damly dum dum, damly dum dum, dum dum dum, damly dum dum, damly dum dum, damly dum dum, dum dum dum.
A teenager's life is just what it seems. Heart built on hopes and a life full of dreams. The candy store where everyone goes.
Good evening, my viewers. You're going to see a different side of me tonight. You're going to see my teenage years and the music that took place. The intro music tonight was from the rock and roll era, the doo-wop era, and I have
Vinny
Coniglio
Coniglio
with me, who was a singer with a doo-wop group.
Right, with a doo-wop group called The Visions.
The Visions.
We cut this record in 1959.
And let's go back to the 50s. We're in the same age range. We won't tell anybody what that is.
No.
39 plus. But we had some boring music in the early 50s, before maybe 52 or 53. Then Vinny, tell people what happened.
Well, there was a fellow by the name of Alan Freed who had a show called Moondog.
Yeah.
And he coined the phrase rock and roll.
He was the one who
He
coined
was the
it.
originator of rock and roll, the word rock and roll. And he started the rock and roll, and for many years he had a lot of groups come on his show and sing, and he promoted a lot of good songs.
But he wasn't the only one.
No, there was other people. Dick Clark was involved with rock and roll. Clay Cole.
Dick Clark really made it popular because
Right,
people
'cause
would
he had the
run
show.
home from school and see his dance
Right, his
party
TV
every
show.
day.
His TV show.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing I want to tell you though about that is I had the opportunity one time. We had a couple other groups in Brooklyn, the Mystics and the Passions, who had big
Just
hit-
to be with you.
right, and Hushabye.
Hushabye,
And
Hushabye,
the,
oh my baby,
One time,
don't you
one of the
cry.
Passions got sick, and I filled in for them.
Wow.
And we did a show in Providence, Rhode Island.
Really?
Jack Spector, who later came to New
Yeah,
York.
I remember
Jack
Mr.
Spector. Well, he had a similar setup with the candy store scene, with the girls sipping cokes and all of that.
Speaking of that, let's talk about our generation. Wasn't it great going to the local candy store and having a Vichy or what was that when they put a little syrup in with a
Egg cream.
egg cream.
Egg cream.
I used to
I know
love
what that is because I worked in the candy store. I was a soda jerk once. Yeah.
I used to be one.
And I used to be one.
They had a pinball machine in Artie's where
Uh-huh.
I'd spend 3 or 4 hours there because I would keep winning free games, and I think you put a nickel in the machine. And let's talk about jukeboxes in the 50s.
Well, when I first started there, they didn't have a jukebox.
6 for a quarter, right? The
Right, and
songs?
then they finally got a jukebox, and then everybody got a jukebox all over.
And you know, in our generation, they used to knock rock and roll, saying they were the hippie generation and they were terrible.
Well-
Take a look at how the rock and roll singers looked, and take a look at what MTV of what these people are wearing.
Well-
And they banned Elvis Presley from the waist down because he wiggled too much. Look what you're seeing on MTV today with
it's
the
a whole new
female
ball game
singers.
today. It's a whole new ball
It's
game.
a whole new world.
It's right, a whole new world. I like to say that our songs in that day told stories.
Yes.
Like Teenager's Life told a story about a teenager. And
Why must I be a teenager in love songs?
Well, that was, Dion.
When a girl changes from Bobby Socks to Stockings by
right, all
Frankie
different
Avalon.
songs. That's right. So anyhow,
Put Your Head on My Shoulder, which was my wife and my favorite
Oh,
song,
really?
and it's still around today,
oh wow,
by Paul Anka.
yeah.
And you know what? Paul Anka was famous, like you in a way, for besides singing, he was a writer. And he wrote the song My Way for Frank Sinatra.
That's true. That's
and he
true.
extended Mr. Sinatra's career by about 20 or 30 years. But I want you to talk more
Well,
about
but how come you never got into singing?
Of course, everybody says I have a face made for radio and a voice made for radio, that I better not give up my daytime job. But I think they're just teasing.
I know, but getting back to the rock and roll, it was an interesting time. It was a magical time
It was
because,
a change.
and I remember a lot of things. I like to say there's one movie that really captured a good portion of that era. Was called American Graffiti.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, you remember the drive-ins that you're going to
Of
the
course.
restaurants, right? We had a place called Mitchell's on 86th Street in Brooklyn, near 4th Avenue, I think, or Fort Hamilton.
Oh,
Brooklyn.
when the girls came out with roller skates on and served you hamburgers.
That don't exist anymore, but the building is still there.
I
It
thought
is a
you were
restaurant.
talking about drive-in movies where
Well,
4
we
or
had that
5 of
too.
you got in the trunk and hid and you didn't get charged.
Yeah.
And balconies in movies, do you remember that from the 50s?
Of course. Yeah. Right.
Do you have famous movie theaters in Brooklyn? You're from Brooklyn.
The Lowe's Theaters. What are you kidding
We
me?
had Lowe's, Proctor's,
They
and
said when I was a
Yonkers.
kid, they still had vaudeville. Not to say how old I am,
But we got tired of that music by Lawrence Welk and Guy Lombardo.
well, it was a new era.
And,
It was a new era.
and Frankie. It was a hip era, rock and roll.
Rock and roll is here to stay.
And it's
It-
still
it
here.
will never
and
die.
It
Oh,
will
yeah.
never die.
I don't think it'll
And
never
by
die.
the way, we don't want to give a plug to a radio outfit, but if people still want to hear this music, I heard they can hear it on Sirius Radio.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have the 50s, 60s, 70s, all different channels. I know Channel 5 on Sirius has the 50s. Not to do a plug now, but
Now,
I listen to that a lot.
Wasn't that a great era to grow up
yeah,
in?
yeah. We used to go to
Hanging on the corner.
We used to go to record hops. Coney
Sock
Island,
hops, they call them.
Coney Island, the beach.
You're my Coney Island baby.
Right.
How about
I go-
walking with the boys on the corner and doing doo-wop music? But
Well, that's, we used to always try to find an echo. A lot of times we'd go down to the subway
looking
station.
for an
or-
echo.
Let me. We'd look for like a subway station, or sometimes we'd go on the Bell Parkway in Brooklyn. They had a walkover, the overpass, and we'd get under there, and there was an echo, and it was just beautiful.
So
and we
that's
just
why
harmonized.
That famous singer sings that song, "Looking for an Echo." He just had throat cancer.
Kenny Vance.
Kenny, what a singer, man.
Oh, he's great.
He came out in the 80s or 90s, but you could put him right in with all those 50s.
I've been to a lot of Kenny's shows, and I miss him. I hope he's well. I'd like to give a shout out to him.
He just came out with a show in Brooklyn recently.
Oh, really?
And I know somebody who's a good friend of his manager. And 3 or 4 years ago, he told me, Kenny will never sing again. He's got cancer of the throat.
Wow.
But he's made a tremendous comeback, I
I'm
hear.
glad to hear it.
I like his hat he wears, too, and that walk he did. That reminds me a little of 2 of the godfathers of rock and roll, Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley. Do you want to comment on them?
Well, Chuck Berry, he's just full of rhythm. I mean, he hopped around with that guitar on the stage. He was just great. And he played that guitar well.
Right.
He was a really good musician. And well, the king. What could you say about the king? He was the king. Elvis was the king.
But the whole doo-wop era was the groups harmonizing.
Right, all the groups.
Standing on the corners.
Well, that's what we did. I mean, like I said, I hung out there in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, 17th Avenue between 83rd and 84th Street, Brooklyn. Hi, everybody over there. And we used to sing on the corner. And there was the Mystics, the Passions, a lot of groups.
Yeah.
There were some groups that didn't even make a record, but everybody was into singing
And
at
how
that time.
about, this is something the kids of today would never know. We had our transistor radios listening to Alan Freed and all the good rock and
boom
roll
boxes,
music.
but I used to even have a box on my bicycle, a radio, mounted on my bicycle.
And then VHS tapes came out. And
Right.
now it's so technical, it's on computers.
Oh, you gotta know
A
what
guy
you're doing.
amazed me. You know how we used to collect records and buy them?
Well,
He
there
can
isn't
go
any-
on YouTunes or whatever it is. Any record ever he can get and tape
You
it.
could Google Teenager's Life by Divisions right now,
Right.
or Little Moon, 1959 doo-wop, and you'll hear my song.
I liked Little Star by the Elegants.
Well, Little Star, where
Can
are
they
you?
still buy that? Or can you get credit for it if they accessed it on YouTube?
Hopefully,
Or
yeah.
not YouTube, U-tunes, right?
U-tunes? I don't
See,
know
I'm
about
not
that.
Italian. U-tunes, YouTube. But
Well,
wasn't it
anyhow.
great? A lot of us didn't have cars.
Well,
but
that's one thing I always
I
had.
still dream of having a 57 Chevy or a Corvette.
I used to have a 1953 Oldsmobile.
Wow.
It was nosed and decked. Okay, they call that, it was clean, no chrome on the
Yeah,
nose.
yeah,
I had spinners underneath,
Yeah.
on the wheels,
yeah.
with lights shining down on them. I also was the first guy in Brooklyn to put a 15-inch speaker under my hood and play rock and roll as we drive around.
Wow.
So, and that caught on.
Weren't those the good old days? But
Oh, they were great
I mean, you
days.
could drive around in your 57 Chevy, and if you saw a beautiful girl, you could whistle at her, and she might jump in the car today, them days. Today, if you did anything like that, you get arrested.
Well.
What has this world turned into?
Well, what is it turned into?
So we're that. I think the 50s and the early 60s, before the British invasion came in and killed true doo-wop rock and roll,
Oh, yeah.
were
That
the
was a
best
big change.
years.
It was a big change.
And I was happy to grow as a teenager up in them years. And we didn't have much money in
That's
them
true.
days either.
That's true.
But we had fun playing Ringalivio, stickball,
Listen, I
kick the can.
could go back with that too. I mean, when I was a kid, I made a scooter. I'd go to the grocery store and get some orange crates and a 2x4, an old pair of roller skates, and take it apart and put wheels in the front and wheels in the back. I had a scooter.
Funny story about
Right? I used to build that myself.
Funny story about roller skates, since you brought it up. We had a roller skating rink in Mount Vernon, New York. But the first day Cross County Shopping Center opened, I went to a Tom McCann's, bought a pair of shoes for $7.99, and they threw in a pair of roller skates as an incentive. And it was, people don't notice, but Cross County Shopping Center in Yonkers was the first shopping center in America.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. There's a lot of history. We have a lot of history all over the place.
And how about getting a handful of candy for a nickel in them days?
Right.
A Coke
Right.
and a Pepsi for a nickel with
I
2
know.
cents deposit.
Can't get that
2
anymore.
hot dogs for a quarter.
Nathan's.
Pizza for less than $1.
Nathan's in Coney Island.
You're my Coney Island baby. Who sung that
You should have
song?
taken up singing.
Voice training, maybe. But it's amazing, like I said, how you can
Well, it's
remember.
different today. What happens with these songs is they just take you back. That's the nice thing, You listen to an old song and say, wow, and you remember where you were at that time, and you just,
Getting back to today's music, I'm not knocking rap or nothing. But 50 years from now, when they hear you're this and you're that, and are they going to say, dear, they were playing our song? And
50
a lot
years
of
from
it,
now?
a lot of it is laced with profanities too, which is
Well,
nice.
that's a different.
Yeah,
I don't want to go there too much
No,
today
no,
because really the songs today.
there's one young girl. She makes 180 million a year. She always has a story in her songs. I can't think of her. You know who I'm talking about? She's about 21, 22 years old. Sweet innocent thing, plays the holy roller act. I shouldn't say that, but that she's. And the boys have always done her wrong, but she's very popular with the young kids today.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, that's because you're older like me. But
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
it great in
Yeah.
them days
Well,
too?
there's still quite a few groups still singing. Like I said, the Passions, they're still singing. They're still making records.
What I noticed on Channel 13, a resurgence of this music by the younger people, and it really amazed
That's
me
interesting.
how good they were.
I saw it once, and I like it. I think it's a good thing.
So when are you going to make a comeback with a group?
Well, I don't know. There's only 2 of us left from the group. There was
Well,
4
you
of
got to
us.
put out for 2 more backups. I'd be willing to be a backup singer.
4 back.
By the way, you laugh. I've been on stage in Vegas
Really?
with a singer, doing a duet with him. Peekskill, My Kind of Town is the name of the song.
Peekskill, My Kind of Town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of a little play on Chicago, My Kind of Town.
I know the
with
tune. I get it. The
none
tune.
other than Doug Ferroni, a guy from Peekskill who travels all over, even on cruise ships singing, and he's a Frank Sinatra sound alike.
Wow.
And I was honored when he said, George Ondek from Peekskill, New York, my hometown, come on up and let's do a duet together.
Wow.
So see, I have been on a stage singing.
Good for
and
you.
you're knocking me.
I'm not knocking you.
I know you're not.
I'm not
You're
knocking
teasing
you.
me.
Yeah.
So
That's
let's tell everybody how we met recently. We won't name the name of the place, but I met you in a coffee shop.
Yeah. Well, I've met you a few times over the years.
Yeah,
And
through the years.
We go back 3 or 4 years at
I
least.
like that
all
song,
right?
Through the Years.
Do you think we go back 3 or 4 years? I would say so.
I heard 3 or 4 centuries or decades.
Well,
I might have been one of the people who bought your record for all you know, because
Maybe,
I've got
maybe.
I got most of the early rock and roll records.
Yeah.
And you did have a good sound, man.
Yeah.
The sweetest music this side of heaven. And I'm not talking about Lawrence Welk or Guy Lombardo then. So how
Well,
come we had this moniker of being so bad? And now you look at the rock and roll groups of then, again, compared to what you see today.
I don't know how to really answer that because it was a different era, you know. Today,
And it was great to go to a sock hop. Most of the kids today wouldn't know what a sock hop
right?
is, right?
Yeah.
We started in the 7th and 8th grade, and that's how I met my wife, through a girlfriend,
Really?
by the way,
Okay.
who didn't want me and palmed my wife off onto me, but we've been together 59 years. And my friend, who she wanted to date, that didn't work out at all.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's this is what could happen at sock hops. People fell in love.
Of course. Of course. That's a nice story.
How about Silhouette? You like that song?
Yep. Silhouette. Yep.
What group sang that? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember. I don't
Was
know.
it the Rays?
That's that. Yeah, the Rays.
Yeah. Okay. Silhouette, Silhouette,
Yeah.
and the Drifters were pretty good.
Drifters, the Nutmegs.
the
There's a lot of
Boardwalk,
groups too.
Down by
There was a
the
group called the
sea,
Nutmegs.
Under the board.
Drifters. The
Elegance. He's still singing, by the way, the lead singer. And he had a heart attack 2 or 3 years ago, and my wife and I didn't think we'd see him again, but he's come back again. Vito Pacone, I think his name.
Well, I had the opportunity in 2005 to go on a cruise with my sister.
Uh-huh.
My wife couldn't make it, and it was a doo-wop cruise.
That must have been nice.
And on the cruise was Vito Pacone and the Elegance,
Yeah.
Larry Chance and the Earls, right? The Passions, and I think there was another group, and it was fun. It was really fun.
Now, everybody from the Bronx, and you're from the Bronx,
No,
right? No, Brooklyn.
I'm from the state of Brooklyn. I told you that
State-
before.
I think you're the state
It's a
of
big place.
state
It's a big
of
place.
confusion.
I always kid.
state of delusion.
No, it's not. No, it's
Although
not.
it may be bigger than some states.
Well, it's
It
pretty
might
big.
be bigger than Little Rhodey, Rhode Island.
Right? No, it's a big place.
How was it the first time you appeared on stage with your group?
Well, I was very nervous, you know.
Yeah.
Always nervous, and but we got by. We got by.
But I hear what killed it was payoffs to
Well, the
Alan Freed.
payola investigations, we didn't get the play, and of course, without getting the play, nobody knew who you really were.
And then
What happened was the original owner of it was bought out by another Lost Night, actually. The original record was on LG Records, and then Lost Night bought the record, and about a year or two later, they tried to put it out again, but they couldn't do it, and they couldn't get the play with because of the pale investigations.
right.
So we were like, I think number 17 on the station down in Jersey.
Well,
But
you
that-
made the top 40 hit list then
Well, yeah,
for
but-
that area.
right. But it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I mean, New York was the place. It's like California, New
Right,
York.
right.
You gotta.
Or Nashville for country music.
Hmm. So anyhow, but anyway, so that's what did it, and then eventually we split up, and like two of the boys.
But I don't think payola is really what killed it. The British invasion.
Well, no, but
although they sung some pretty good.
No, don't knock the payola was a big part of it because what happened was you couldn't get nobody want. Wynn's Radio was playing rock and roll. Okay, Wynn's Radio was playing Frank Sinatra,
you're old
Perry
if you
Como.
remember that.
Okay, Wynn's Radio we refused to play any rock and roll records because of that. So what happened with that? We didn't get any play, and that was it. You couldn't get in, you know. Yeah, that's what
And
happened.
then there were other disc jockeys. I don't know if you're aware of them. Jocko.
Yeah.
E. Tiddlyock, this is the jock, and I'm back on the scene with the
Tiddlyock,
record, the record machine, the correct Tiddlyock.
No, he used
What
to,
did you think?
he was with Jocko. E.T.D.Ounce, my boys, these sounds singing Oopapa Kyak, Follow the Rock. That was Jocko.
So you mean we had rappers back then?
Well, that was Jocko.
These
that's,
young guys
That's
got
what he would
nothing.
say. That's what Jocko would say.
Then there was another singer, another DJ on another network. I think he was African American and just played rock and roll music. But I think Dick Clark really got accepted.
Well, he
His
did,
dance
and
party.
his show was a big success. And
it was from he was born in Mount Vernon, New York, which is right next to my old home city of Yonkers. By the way, we met in a coffee shop, but my original coffee shop was in Getty Square, Yonkers, Bickford's, as a teenager, and selling papers.
Pickford's?
Yup, selling papers with Ike and Mike for 3 cents a copy. I just heard one of the papers is $2 now.
Really?
And Ike and Mike, we were selling the News and the Daily Mirror. You ever hear of those papers? And on Sunday, the Journal American and the Herald Tribune.
Did you have a J.C. Higgins bicycle?
No, I did not.
I did.
I only had a Schwinn, which I saved $1 a week because I was only making $3 a week as a paper boy and having to go back 4 times to collect the 35 cents.
Well, let me tell you.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
I saved $1 a week and put it in my encyclopedia that I got for free from buying something. And at the end of a year, I had $50 saved up, and I bought a Schwinn bicycle with that. What do you think of that?
That's good for you.
See, it taught me the value of saving too.
Well, that's always my parents instill. I always had a savings account from a young boy. But there's the story I wanted to tell you was.
Go ahead.
I wanted this J.C. Higgins bicycle, and it was like $50.
See, I mentioned 50.
And that was, right. Well, with 50, it happened to be around $50 from Sears. Sears made the
Sears
JC.
and Roebuck Company.
Sears
What
and
happened to
Roebuck.
Roebuck?
No, he's gone. But anyhow, so I said to my mother, I'd like to get a bicycle, Ma. And she says to me, she says, I'll tell you what, son. She says, if you save up half the money, I'll give you the rest. Well, I earned the rest of the money. I was always working. I'm working
too.
since I was 8 years old. I used to deliver circulars to the apartment buildings,
You
okay?
beat me by
So
4
now,
years.
to make a long story short, I get this bicycle. Now, I had another job that I used to do, too, to make money. I used to carry packages home for the ladies from the grocery store. Guess what Vinny did?
What?
Vinny put a basket on his bicycle.
Wow.
Now I was in business. I could go do more deliveries.
Ingenuitive.
And I'd take it right to their house. And then so I made a lot of money that way.
Yeah.
So I made money with my bicycle.
So how did you and the boys get together and start harmonizing
Well, it's very
and
interesting.
decide to do a record? And what'd you have to do to make a record?
Well, of course, the help that we had, of course, with the other groups was successful, and they gave us a little in. We had the manager from...
Now, why did they help you? Why?
Well, but let me go back how it started. My cousin and I, one day, just started singing songs, and we found that we can do 2-part harmony. So we started thinking, you know what? Why don't we start a group? We could sing harmony, and we'd get a couple more guys, and that's how we started. And we started singing and doing harmony together.
I still think you should do that for seniors groups to start out with. And who knows, it may be a hit.
So then after that, we went to see the manager of the Passions, who was Jim Gribble, and that's how we got started. and we'd go sing, and he'd say, come back next week, and eventually we got to the point where we were superb. The harmony was just beautiful. And he says, okay, it's time. So now we didn't know what we were going to do because we had to cut a song, right? So we decided to write our own songs, and that's what we did. We wrote Teenager's Life and Little Moon.
And you have the
That's some of the sheet
original
music from the
sheet music.
yeah.
And you wrote the song.
And another interesting story, the man that arranged this music, his name was Ticho Welchaw. He did a lot of Dion and the Belmonts records.
I'm surprised. Oh, yeah.
He was quite a guy. He was excellent in the arrangements. And that helped a lot. You could
Dion's
see
still going strong. Did
he's
you
still
know?
around.
I saw him up in Bethel last year.
Oh, yeah?
But I didn't recognize him. I expected a man with a black suit and tie, a cummerbund on. I saw a guy look like a hippie from the
He
60s.
changed,
And he was very thin looking, too, and a gray beard. You know.
Well, anyway.
So, Vinny, we're getting very short on time here. What would you like to say to my vast audience in closing?
I would like to say that the memories that I have, I hope a lot of people that are listening today have those memories too, because rock and roll was a great thing, and the music was just superb. It was really
And
superb.
it was our music, because you're in the age range of
right.
me.
It was our music.
It was our
and
teenage
I know there's a lot of
years.
people out there that still love these songs.
And I hope they've
know
reminisced with you
Right.
and me tonight fondly about
Right.
how great that music
Amen.
is.
Yep.
And I hear vinyl records are coming back. Is that true?
People collecting vinyl records these days.
Well,
they are.
actually, I might want to do a little plug here. I have about 2,050 records. I don't know how to get rid of them if
Did
I
you hear
wanted
that,
to sell,
folks?
or what
Get
the
in touch with-
value.
get in
Somehow or
George with-
another, get in touch with me. And,
Get him, George Ondek. And
but I don't want to do a
in the
plug
records.
or anything. There's a guy in Buchanan has a record store, and he's a pretty big
you might want to talk
expert.
to him.
Yeah, maybe bring him on now and talk about 50s,
Well,
60s, 70s
maybe, and
music.
what's going on, that the people are starting to collect these records again.
Yeah,
It's a good
the
thing.
young people are starting to
Right,
realize
right.
what beautiful music we
Oh,
had.
yeah.
It wasn't just Rock Around the Clock and
No,
Blackboard
no.
Jungle. That was a pretty good song, Rock Around the Clock.
Amen. Yep. So, yeah. So,
The 10 Commandments of Love was a pretty good book by Harvey and the Moonglows. Isn't it amazing how I can remember these things?
well,
but I can't
you know what's
remember.
amazing?
Wait up. Well,
When-
I
when the-
can't remember where I put my keys 30 seconds
You
ago.
know what I find amazing?
What?
If you ask me the words of certain songs, I might not be able to tell you right away. But as soon as that record comes on, the words come right back to
I
you.
bet the first couple of notes you know what the song
right,
is too.
right, and you know what song's coming on.
So it's been an honor and great to have you as a guest tonight, Vinny.
Well, I thank you so much for having me on your show. And thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk about it.
And my one dream also, I have a bucket list that I could have been up on the stage and been a rock and roll singer singing doo-wop like you. Till next time,
Well,
folks, let the good times roll.
Amen.
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 Long live rock and roll.
Rock and roll will never die.
Moon that shines so bright.